Let's go. Enough of this stupidity, Mochi. Right. Setting up the Facebook Live meeting. Oh, redirected. Brilliant. Excellent. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So nice to have all of you here tonight. So first of all, welcome to everybody who's come in person. I like to give those people a welcome first. Welcome to everybody online. Oh, you guys are here as well. It's so nice of you. But welcome to everybody who's here in person. Welcome to those on Facebook Live, on Zoom, and on Torah Anytime for great Torah content, TorahAnytime.com. Great place to go. Okay, this week's Parasha Chayei Soroh. Really lots of great things to talk about. So I'd like to start with the first one over here. Vayu Chayei Soroh, and the days or the life of Sarah was Mea Shana, 100 years, Ve'esrim Shana, in 20 years, Ve'sheva Shanim, in 7 years, Shnei Chayei Soroh. Those are the years of the life of Sarah Imenu. Okay? Now, we have one other thing in the Tanakh that actually is also 127. Anybody know what the 127 is? Go on, what is it? Go on, Maureen, you tell me. You go, girl. The number of provinces, exactly. Esther was a queen. Achashverosh, we start off by Vahivi Achashverosh. Yeah, Jake's taught you everything you know, right? That's right. Yaakov, actually. Yes. So it says, Vahivi Achashverosh, it wasn't the days of Achashverosh, that's Achashverosh. Hamelech Mordechai Kush, who was the king from Hodu to Kush, which was Ethiopia, to India. Sheva ve'esrim mea medina, 7 and 20 and 100 kingdoms. So 127 kingdoms. So Rashi tells us over there for the schar that there's a connection because Sarah Imenu lived 127 years. So Esther therefore merited to get 127 countries. Okay, that is what the Medrash tells us over there, Rashi tells us over there. And the question obviously is, what's the connection? Okay? Specifically, considering that you're also a daughter of Sarah Imenu, and you're a daughter of Sarah Imenu. So where are your 127 provinces? And where are yours, Iris? How come you didn't get any? How come only Esther got some, right? Yeah, that's a good question, isn't it? For all the ladies, all the men are like, shucks, I'm a boy. It has to be a downside to being a guy also, So we don't get the 127 countries. But why it says, because she was the great-great-granddaughter of Sarah Imenu, and Sarah Imenu lived 127 years. In that marriage, she got 127 countries. There are many people that were great-great-granddaughters of Sarah Imenu. Actually, come to think of it, every Jewish woman basically is a great-great-granddaughter of Sarah Imenu. And yet we've given Esther this preferential treatment. And what is it about Esther that makes her deserve this preferential treatment? And the answer brought in the Osnai and the Torah, a beautiful answer and a very, I think, moving answer. Remember, my sister, actually this one's, Clive's in the waiting room. Let's look Clive in, right? I remember my sister who, well, now works for Facebook, so this one's on Facebook Live, this one's for you, Tali, right? But my sister who was in high school in America had a course on Megillas Esther. And actually, there's something very interesting about Esther, and that is that she is probably the saddest character within the entire Tanakh. Maybe the only one that might get anywhere near her is Job, but Esther's a sad. Why is Esther such a sad character? I mean, think of it. You have a young woman over here who's an orphan. She's an orphan girl. She's lost her father. She's lost her mother. She's been now taken in by her uncle Mordechai, and he's married her. That's what the Chazal tell us. And she's living quite a nice life. And then suddenly there's a beauty pageant. And the beauty pageant is being held by Saddam Hussein of those days. Right? So nobody is running to become Saddam Hussein's bride. It's not exactly something that anybody wanted to be, or some people were. Some people were so excited. Imagine what would happen if I lived in the palace. Imagine what it would be like to have maids and servants and money and delicacies. Life would be just unbelievable, right? Many people, many women, were enamored with this. Esther, on the other hand, was absolutely horrified by the idea. The Gemara tells us that originally Mordechai hid Esther. He was hoping to hide Esther in the hope that she wouldn't get caught and she'd be able to stay home, and that'd be the end of it. I'm sure there were many other people that hid their daughters or hid their wives. They're like, I'm not sending my wife there. My wife's my wife. I don't want my wife going to be with this low life. Even if he's the ruler, even if he's the king of 127 provinces, who wants their daughter, who wants their wife to be violated in this terrible way? So Mordechai hides her, and he can't hide her any longer. And they found her, and they took her to the palace. And in the end, she ends up becoming the queen. Now, you might think to yourself, wow, lucky her, right? It's almost like the rags to riches story. Kate, right? You take someone like Kate or Meghan, either of the two. All right, maybe not Meghan. She's not royal anymore, right? She was, but she's not royal anymore. But take someone like Kate, right? After Charles, may live a long life, but after Charles is 120 and moves on, the next king and queen will be, or will she be called the queen, or will she be only the Princess of Wales? I don't know how it goes. She will be the queen. Yeah. Okay. Because it was the other way around. It was the queen and he was the Duke of Edinburgh. So he somehow didn't become the king, I guess, because was king over the queen. I don't know how it works in the royal family. You're asking the wrong person, right? Mochi, pass the tissues over there, please. So she ends up in this palace and she stays there. How long? How long does she end up staying in this palace? You may know. Forever. For the rest of her life. She went in. She had to save the Jewish people. She basically had to get divorced from her husband. Was stuck with this terrible, low-life despot of a husband. And that was her. That was the rest of her life. There is no happy ending in Esther's life. There's a happy ending in the Megillah. We read the Megillah and everyone's like and they're dancing and they're singing and they're killing their enemies and they're making all sorts of new edicts that next year and the year after, and we'll give Mishloach Banas to Matanos Levyanim, and we'll read the Megillah and we'll have Sudas and we'll get drunk, etc. Everybody's having a great, brilliant time. But not everybody's having a great and brilliant time. Who isn't in this whole story? Esther. Stuck forever with this guy. That's a terrible ending, right? Sometimes you read a novel and the novel ends really well for almost everybody, but then there's a really sad ending for one character. And Esther is like the heroine of the whole story. She'd think at least the heroine of the whole story, she comes out of this story, she's got something to show for it. Got nothing to show for it. Nothing. Stuck with this guy. Now you might think to yourself, well, isn't she lucky? She got to live in the palace. She got to live in the lap of luxury together with the king to be the queen. There were people that would give anything to be the queen. They're pretty stupid, but there were people that give anything to be the queen. And yet Esther's here and she's crying and she's desperate. And she says, why have you left me, God? Why am I stuck in this? And this is actually a replay of something that happens twice before. Sarah Imeinu gets taken twice. Once by Paro in Parshas Lech Lecha, once by Avimelech in Parshas Vayera. Twice in the last couple of weeks, we've read about Sarah Imeinu being kidnapped. The king wants to take her. And again, what happens with Sarah Imeinu? You'd think Sarah Imeinu would be chuffed, especially when it came to Paro. Sarah Imeinu was married to this guy Avram, who by everybody else's opinion, was an absolute crackpot. He was crazy because he believed in one God when nobody else believed in one God. He was the only idiot out there, the only monotheist. And everybody else said, no, there's lots of gods and idols, etc., etc. He's on his own. And until he made his way down to Egypt, he was actually a very poor man. We read how on the way back, he had to pay back the people whom he owed money to. But until he got out of Mitzrayim and got out of Egypt, he was a poor man. So she married to a poor guy who's the laughing stock of the world. And Yeshe gets kidnapped by one of the most powerful monarchs in the civilized world at the time, which for many people go, woohoo, yes, brilliant. High fives all around. Not Sorry Menu. We read the Medrash says Sorry Menu was crying out Vasai. Kodesh Baruch Hu hit Paro and his entire family out Vasai. Eshes Avram. Sorry Menu was crying. She was saying, Hashem, get me out of this place. Get me out of here. Had nothing to do. She didn't care about the money. She didn't care about the prestige. She didn't care about everything that came with this. She just wanted out. Who is most closely linked and most closely related to that wonderful woman, Sorry Menu, and shows the same resolve instead of looking at money, fortune, and fame? Looks it all in the face and says, I don't want it. I don't need it. All I want is real Yiddishkeit. I want my husband. I want a real life. I just want reality. This isn't reality. This is all wrong. Who is that has that attitude? That's Sorry Menu. And that's Esther. And so therefore we say, in the merit of Sorry Menu and in the merit that Esther acted exactly as Sarah did, in that merit, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you know what? Sorry Menu lived 127 years and was willing to give up everything, not to live in that lap of luxury, and rather to stay with Avraham Avinu. And Esther was willing to do exactly the same thing, deserves the reward, one country, one province for every year that Sorry Menu was alive, because there's that very strong connection between the two of them. Okay, that's the first idea that I want to share with you. Okay, we're going to move on now to the following. We're on page 110. Avraham Avinu has now tasked Yitzchak he's tasked his servant Eliezer to go and to get a wife for his son Yitzchak. And what happens? So Eliezer goes and he gets to that place over there in Aram Naharaim, which is the city of Nahor. And then he says the following. Look at verse 12. Vayomar. And he davens and he says, Hashem Elokei Adoni Avram. Hashem, the master of my master Avram, the God of my master Avram. Hakrei no lefanai hayom. And he says, basically, may you arrange it for me today. Hakrei means mikra, it means let it happen, happenstance. Let it just sort of happen. Vase chesed, do a chesed with my master Avram. Behold, I'm now standing by the well of water, and all the girls are coming out, and they're coming to draw water, and I will walk over to one of the women. I will say to her, can I have something to drink? And she will say to me, yes, you're allowed to have something to drink, and not only can you have something to drink, but also your camels can have something to drink. That is the woman that you've proven should be the right one for my master, and she is the one that I will choose, hopefully, to be the wife for Yitzchak. That is what Eliezer Eved Avram is asking for over here. And Chassam Sofer asked the question. He says, I don't understand. Why does Eliezer ask over here, Hakrei no lefanai hayom? Make it happen. Arrange it in a way so that this works out. If Eliezer is really asking for a miracle, you know what he should ask for? Ask for an open miracle. God can do all sorts of great things. Okay? I would like that all the girls that come to draw the water should not be able to get anywhere near the well. And the daughter of Besuel, the one who I need to get to marry Yitzchak, she should be the only one that should be able to get around this force field that's around this thing, around this well. Or maybe make her fly in the air. Or make me fly in the air and land right outside the door. I can come up with all sorts of great stories. There's no lack of imagination out there. Certainly not for us. And however imaginative we think we are, God's got a much better imagination than we do. You know what the proof of the pudding is? Life's so much funnier than, reality is always so much funnier than fiction, What do we call it? Truth is stranger than fiction. Do you not find that? Sometimes we've had stories, and I told the story to my wife, and she goes, if I had written that story and sent it in to an editor, they wouldn't have accepted it. They would have told me that's far-fetched. Nobody's going to read this and nobody's going to buy it. Because people want to buy books that they can relate to. Nobody's going to buy a book and go, that's ridiculous. That never happens, right? But then you read certain stories that are truth and you're like, what? Have you ever had that? Do you know what I'm talking about? Truth being really strange, sort of like stranger than fiction. So you have over here, God can do anything. And yet Eliezer is asking for a very hidden miracle rather than saying to God, make an open miracle. What is the greatness of a hidden miracle over an open miracle? Okay? That's the question Chassam Sofer asks. And Chassam Sofer says a very important rule. And that's the following. Anytime something very great happens, there will always be people that will try to find a natural way to explain it. So, those who read Ian's joke recently, did you read Ian's joke in the Strawberries Times? No? Yes? Yeah. So it says, what's a miracle, right? About the miracle, right? The teacher said, what's a miracle? And the kid raises a hand and says, a miracle is like, that the, pardon? No, about the Jews being able to go through the Nile, the Sea of Reeds. The Jews were able to travel through the Sea. So the teacher says, well, that wasn't really a miracle. There was an area where there were currents that came together, and because of the currents, the water was only 3 or 4 inches deep, and they waded through 4-inch deep water, and nothing really happened. It's no big deal, etc., etc. So he says, so do you have another miracle? He goes, yeah. Well, what's the other miracle? That all the Egyptians drowned in 4 inches of water, right? Yeah, which is great, yeah. But there's so many people that have gone out and tried to explain the greatest things out there. So you read about the 10 plagues. There are people that have written books to try to explain the 10 plagues naturally. This happened, and that happened, and then this happened, and then that happened, and that's how it all happened naturally. And there are people that will tell you there are reasons why the sea split. And the sea split just there where they needed it. I mean, you know what? What's great about it is a coincidence. It split just on the right day, just at the right time, just for the Jews and not for the Egyptians. All right, whatever. But they'll be willing to tell you that's nothing to do with miracles. God never did that. That is some kind of natural thing. That is some kind of, in the olden days, you used to say kishut, that's some kind of witchcraft. And so therefore you look at that and you say, that doesn't prove anything. So you know what happens? Eliezer, the servant of Avraham Avinu, says, you know what? If I'm going to come to Lavan and Besuel, who are big sorcerers, who are big witchcraft people, who are big idol worshippers, and I'm going to say to them, listen, guys, I was standing by the well and I prayed to God, and suddenly I felt myself floating in midair. And next thing I knew it, I was sitting at your table. I'd like your daughter, right? They'd be like, oh, that wasn't God. We can't say that was God. Our gods also do the kind of miracles. You get into all sorts of conversations and nobody's going to say, you'll see later on, when it comes to the final thing, Lavan and Besuel, even Lavan and Besuel, who normally would never use these words, say, Me Hashem yatsa adava. You know what? This is godly. I'm sure after they finish, one of the Mepharshim says, after I said, they're like, what did I just say? Did I just say God did this? I don't even believe in God. How can I say that was godly? Right? As has happened sometimes in hospitals, when you've had a very miraculous story, you've had a doctor say, this was a miracle, and I don't even believe in God. Right? You can have that. But Lavan and Besuel say, this is godly. God created this. This cannot have happened on its own. But if it would have been some kind of crazy freak thing, they would have explained it through the Avodah Zarah. But now you see, I just happened to get there, and I said I wanted this, and she says that, and then I do this, and then she does that, and it all just comes together just perfectly. And when you start to see hashgacha pratis, when you start to see divine providence on a level that is for a single individual, rather than on a level that's like wholesale for everybody, you see, I did this, and then that happened, and that happened. You start to say, that's not really sorcery. You can't blame that on witchcraft. You can blame big bombastic things on witchcraft, but you can't blame witchcraft for the girl showing up just when I wanted her to show up. And you can't blame witchcraft for her doing exactly what I asked. I said to God, God, would you find me a girl that's going to not only give me to drink, but also my camels to drink? And whoops, lo and behold, she showed up and she did exactly that. That's not real witchcraft. Nobody's going to say, well, yeah, that was witchcraft. No, that wasn't witchcraft. That's just a girl being nice. Yeah. But I said, God, find me the girl that's going to be nice. It's going to be so nice. It's going to do this. And God says, okay, I'll find you the girl. And then she shows up and I ask her and she tells me, boom, I got the right one. And not only that, I've showed up at your house and your house is actually the house that I need to get to. How good is that? Yeah, witchcraft. Can't say that anymore. So the Ezra says to God, I want to be able to impress love on a Mesuel. The only way to impress love on Mesuel is not with big things. Big things are always explained away. It's the little things that are often hard to explain. And it's true. It's often the little things that are much, much more difficult to explain than the big things. So you can explain the macro evolution if you wanted to. But how did something small happen? How did the eye just become that shape? How did it have just the right kind of thickness of skin to allow in the light? How do you have something called a pupil that dilates, that gets bigger and smaller? That's already on a micro level. You're talking about evolution on a micro level as opposed to on a macro level. It's much, much harder to explain that. You can say, well, you know what? You had single cell organisms that became big organisms that then became fish, and then the water dried out, and they became birds, and then became mammals, and then became monkeys, and then became people. Okay, fine. That's the big story. You want to explain to me how my nose developed, or can you? Well, that's a lot more complicated. We have theories. We could say we know. It's much harder to explain that. And that's where you get to. When you get to the smaller stories, when you get to the things that are much more defined, much harder to sort of get your head around. And therefore, Eliezer Ibn Avraham says, I don't want big miracles. Big miracles, people always give a reason for. Small stories of Hashgacha Pratis, when you come to someone and say, would you believe this is what happened? People are much more impressed with that. Right? I'll tell you a story. I was going to put this story on my thought for the day. I might still put on my thought for the day. I don't think that many people watch my Chumash here, so I can put it here as well. I went with my boys to Vienna the day after Sukkot and came back the day afterwards from Bratislava because there was no flight back from Vienna then. We had to cut back for Shabbos. It was Wednesday we came back Thursday night. Now we came on the plane. And unbeknownst to me, because I'm not so into these kind of things, the 2 days after Sukkot is the yahrzeit of the Chassam Sofer, whose Dvar Torah we just said. So there you go. This is another little Hashgacha Pratis that I tell the story just now. Just thought of it now. I figured I'll tell the story. This happened by the Chassam Sofer's grave. So this is a story, true story that happened to me. So there's no questions about the authenticity of the story. So here was what happens. I'm standing. We got to Vienna. We went to Vienna with a whole bunch of other people, Jewish people in the plane, because they were all going to visit the Chassam Sofer's grave that night or the next day. About 10,000 people went throughout that day, Wednesday night, Thursday. Very, very popular grave, very, very big Torah sage. People went to see him. So we had our day and a bit in Vienna. And then after that, we decided we need to go to Bratislava anyway to be able to go back to Manchester. So stop off at the grave of the Chassam Sofer. So we bought a train ticket, got on the train, got to the main train station, went to the Chassam Sofer's caver. We all prayed there a little bit. Then there is next to the Chassam Sofer's caver, there's actually what they're called, an Orchem Shti, but there's a little place where they have hospitality for anybody who's come to visit the Chassam Sofer's grave. We went there, we got a drink, a little bit to eat, crossed the road, and I went online. I went to my Uber app and I hired a taxi, because the last taxi had ripped me off, and we decided we're going to get a taxi. So I got on the Uber app and I ordered a taxi, and it says, your taxi driver, whatever his name was, will be with you in 9 minutes. He just has to drop someone else off. So you watch them on Uber, how they drive, and he drives to the main train station, gets to that train station, and then he just stops there. 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And I'm going out of my mind because I'm saying to my boys, we're going to miss our flight. And if I miss this flight, mommy's going to kill me because that'll be the second flight in a year that I've missed. She's really going to have my head for this. Because we're standing here, we ordered the taxi. We didn't have any suitcases. We were already checked in. But the gate closes at 5:15. I'm standing outside the Chassam Sofer's Kever. It is now 4:30. That means the gate closes in 45 minutes. It's at least 15, 20 minutes to get to the airport. And I'm standing there and I'm going out of my mind. And this taxis, because we got out of the cave at 4:15. So all we had to do is take a 20-minute taxi ride. We literally just had to get through security and we'd be there. It's a tiny little airport. And I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting. And the taxi isn't coming. And I finally canceled that Uber, ordered another Uber, waiting for that taxi to come. And suddenly this taxi pulls up right in front of me. And my son says, "Take it, Daddy." And I'm like, "Take it? I can't take that. That's a Viennese taxi." What's a Viennese taxi doing in Bratislava? That's like standing, okay, nowadays with Uber, but that's like standing in the middle of Liverpool and finding a taxi from Leeds. That's what it's like. You don't find Leodensian taxis. That's the word, Leodensian, right? You don't find Leodensian taxis in Leeds, in Liverpool. You wouldn't find them. You'd find them in Leeds, but not in Liverpool. Why would you find them there? But this taxi pulls up right in front of me. And out comes a guy, and the taxi driver walks over to me and goes, "Excuse me." Says, "Yeah. Can you help me?" I'm like, "Sure, I can try to help you." He goes, "All right." He puts his hand in his pocket and pulls out, nope, not this one. Sorry. Pulls out one of these. Exhibit A. NatWest card. Yeah. He pulls out a NatWest bank card. He says, "Can you help me with this?" I said, "Listen, I realized he was from Vienna. I started speaking German to him. I said, 'Sure, I can try to help you. But what is it?' He says, 'Here, have a look at this card. Do you know who this guy is?' And I'm looking at the card and I go, holy guacamole. I know exactly who this guy is because he's from Manchester. I'm like, yeah, I know who he is. And I started to describe the guy to him. I said, he's a tall fellow with a beard. He's originally Swiss. I gave him a few details. He goes, wow, you really do know who the guy is. Okay, here's the card. Please take it. Return it to its owner. I'm like, that was so weird. 3 minutes later, my taxi shows up. I get in the taxi. The taxi was funny because there was tons of traffic on the way to the airport. And there was there's a traffic going straight. And there was a lane all the way on the right. That's for pulling off. That was empty. So we took the lane on the right all the way. It's empty. We're driving. And we're like, oh, this guy's doing something illegal. Last second he's going to cut in. It's funny because when you get to the end of that, it's sort of like the lane splits and half of it goes off and half of it continues straight. And you feel like, that's stupid. All you guys are waiting in line here for no reason. We just drove straight. We got to the airport. I got to the airport at 5:05 or 5:07. We ran out of the car. We ran inside. We ran up the steps. We got there at 5:14 and guess what? They hadn't even started boarding yet. That's what happened. Anyway, I sit down in my seat, and there's a guy behind 2 seats behind me who we always have a bit of a laugh together with us. And he says to me, "Oh, welcome back, Eisenberg. How are you?" I say, "Yeah, how are you, Rabbi?" He goes, "So have you been to Chassam Sofer?" He goes, I said, "Where?" He goes, "You know the Chassam Sofer." By whom? He said, "There was a yard site today." I said, "Really?" I was wondering why there's so many Jews on this flight. Gosh, the yard site was today? He's like, "Yeah." He says, "You mean all these people were there and I missed?" He goes, "Yeah." I'm like, "You Wally, of course I went. Like, what do you think? But you think you're the only one that knows about the yard site? Of course I meant that. Yeah." I said, "But I'll tell you something interesting." I said, "I'm standing outside the Chassam Sofer's caver." And I tapped this guy on the shoulder next to me. I said, "Listen to this. I'm standing outside the Chassam Sofer's caver, and this taxi from Vienna shows up, parks up right next to me, comes out, and hands me this card." And I said, "Yudi, this one belongs to you." He's sitting where Mochi's sitting. He was sitting there. I'm like, "Here's your card, mates." He's like, "How the heck did you do that? I lost that card in a Viennese taxi. How did you just pull that out of your pocket?" He was literally sitting the seat next to me on the plane. Literally sitting on the seat next to me on the plane. He couldn't believe it. He was in the middle of learning. He's like, "Why are you disturbing me now?" He's like, looking at me. I'm like, "Trust me, you'd like to hear this." And I handed him the card. He was like, wow. But when you hear a story like that, we got there late, we couldn't get our taxi. This Viennese taxi stops right in front of us. Of all people, there were thousands of people there. How did he decide to walk over to me and offer me that card? That the guy sits next to me on the plane. That's a crazy story, isn't it? That's pretty wild. You come home with that story and you say to people like, all right, I'm a believer. He's like, no, that was witchcraft. I'm like, no, that story is not like these big bombastic stories. Like, I was in a car accident and the car flipped 6 times. Like, yeah, you know what? But you were strapped in and go and try and explain that story. Try and figure out what are the probabilities of that happening. 0? It can't be 0 because it happened. But if you thought, it's just crazy. It was funny because the guy was sitting literally next to me. What's the probability of the guy sitting right next to me? He might have been at the end of the plane. That's what happened. I'm telling you, it happened to me because I didn't hear this from anybody else. This story happened to me. I'm verifying this story personally. When you hear a story like that, it makes you also believe. It doesn't have to be this great, unbelievable story of somebody was walking down the street and was about to be beaten up, and then God lifted it up and he floated in the air like a bird and he flew all the way to Australia and he was safe. Yeah? Because when I tell you a story like that, you're like, oh, come on, you've lost your marbles. I'll try to explain, you're eating mushrooms, special mushrooms you had tonight for supper. I don't know what you're doing. You're tripping. But you hear a story like that, this is what Eliezer is saying. I want a simple story. Give me a simple story, but a story that on the one hand is so simple, and on the other hand is so compelling. The story I told you before, just now, quite simple. There's nothing unbelievable about it, but it's quite compelling once you put it all together. So that's the idea over here. And that's the initial with the Chassam Sofer. That's happened outside the Chassam Sofer. This is a word from the Chassam Sofer, and that happens outside the Chassam Sofer's kever. So I'm quite happy that we put the two together. Okay, moving on. Have a look at this. Very sweet idea that's brought over here by the Meshech Chochmah. Page 114. Verse 28. Vatara Tzanara, the girl ran and she told her mother's household all these things. Rivka has a brother and his name is Lavan. And Lavan hears as a guy here with a lot of money. Guess what he does? Lavan runs out to the man outside by that well. And then the verse continues, weirdly enough. And it was when he saw the nose ring and the bracelets on his sister's hand. And when he heard this, what Rivka said, that's what the man said to me. He came to the man. He comes to the man, and now he's standing by the camels over there by the well. So he starts off, he's saying, he ran. And then we say, and he gets to the man. He stops talking about running. So says Meshech Chochmah, what's going on over here? You start off with Lavan Arami being very, very excited, and then Lavan Arami somehow seems to calm down. What happened to that excitement? So Lavan hears the following. Lavan hears there's a guy with a lot of money come from Avraham Avinu's household. So Lavan thinks to himself, they've come from Avraham Avinu's household. Now, there's a famous medrash, actually, it says, right at bit further back, Perikov Pasuk says, Avraham Avinu got older and God blessed him with everything. Bakol, some say Bakol mean Avraham Avinu had a daughter as well. And her name was Bakol. So he thinks to himself, Avinu got a daughter. He's bringing a lot of money. He's looking for a son-in-law. He's looking for a son-in-law, and which family he's going to come to. Who else is he going to come to if not to our family? And who's the son-in-law? Who's a prodigal son? Me. By Yorotz Lavan Ela Ish Hachutz La'ain. Lavan hears that Eliezer, the servant of Avraham, is here, and he gets all excited because he thinks what's going to happen. Somebody wants me to marry into that family. I'm rich. I'm wealthy. Woohoo! Yeah, that's what happened. And then as he starts running, he has a bit of a closer look. And it says, he looks and he sees the nose ring. And he sees the bracelets on his sister's hands. And then he hears that, oh, they're looking for a girl. I thought they were looking for a bloke. I thought they were looking for a guy. They're looking for a girl. Oh, whatever. And at that point, we move off from that excitement. And the pasuk tells us, "Vayavo Eloish," she comes to the man just like that. Once he's heard, so he starts off with the initial excitement, the initial burst to start running, because he thinks it's all about me. And when he gets a reality check that actually this has nothing to do with you, this has to do with Rivka. When he sees Rivka, when he sees the presence that she receives, when he hears what she says, the story that she says, wait a second, this got nothing to do with me. No, it's got nothing to do with you. Oh, all right, maybe I'll make my way there slowly. He loses all interest. And that shows us the kind of person that Lavan is. When it's all about me, when I stand to gain, when it's in it for me, you just watch people run. Sometimes you ask people, can you do something for me? You know, it's a little bit different. I'm really busy. I'm paying £100 an hour. What did you say you needed? Yeah. Sorry, I misheard you originally. I was going to say yes. I was going to say to you, yes, sure. Oh, you need 10 hours worth of work. Make it 20. I don't care. Whatever you need doing, I'm happy to do it for you. You change the terms, suddenly it's right. And the other way around also. I've had people, sometimes they say, yes, I'm happy to help you. I'm happy to help you. Sure. Are you paying anything for it? Oh, you were hoping this was going to be pro bono. Let me just check my diary. Oh, look at that. Somebody's just put something in my diary. My secretary just put something in there. I wish I wouldn't renege. I'm not the kind of person that pulls out. I'm just so sorry somebody else just did this. And once it's in, I haven't said yes to you yet. You're not my diary yet, not something else. I'm so sorry. I hate letting, there's people like to say, I hate letting people down. Can you stop it? I hate letting people down. He's like to themselves, no, I don't. No, I don't. I'm so happy enough to do this for you. I really hate doing this to you. You don't feel bad, and you know you don't feel bad. Just stop faking. Stop it. You're making everybody else nauseous looking at you. Do you know what I mean? But Lavan's that guy. He's out, he's running. When it's in it for me, I'm everywhere. Can be found. When there's money to be made, prestige, covet, whatever else it is, you got it. Once he realizes it's not about him, it's only about Rivka, whatever, I'll show up when I get a chance. I don't need to run to the guy anymore. And I think that's where you see the difference between Lavan and Rivka. Rivka does for somebody else. She doesn't know who this guy is. She doesn't know that this guy is going to give her eternity by marrying Yitzchak. She become one of the imos, one of our mothers of Klal Yisrael. So what does she do? She does for a man who asks her for something to drink, she does above and beyond. This guy knows already that they're going to take his sister. So that means you should treat the guy nicely. Imagine if your sister said, my chosn is coming, or my chosn's family is coming to the house. You'd clear out the house. You'd make it nice. When they come, you'd welcome in the new in-laws. Come on in. Welcome to our family. We're so happy to meet you, etc., etc. This guy's like, what? It's not about me? Forget it. I'm not interested. There's the difference. You think about yourself. You think about other people. Lavan thinks only about himself. When there's nothing in it for him, I don't need it. Rivka thinks only of others. That's what makes Rivka Imenu, the person that we remember as one of our imos, and Lavan, the infamous swindler. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you very much for all of you, for Torah Anytime, Facebook Live, Zoom, and most importantly, all of you over here. Anybody wants to get in touch, davideisenberg@gmail.com. See you next week.